Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of The Fluid Voice. I am Rod Clark, also known as Malice Odium. We are currently doing a live show in regards to multiple topics that we're going to address in regarding to the LGBT community. And for my co-hosts, I have Alex, also
Hi.
Ozma in the Dark. Hello, Alex.
Hello.
And then we also have Christy, who is a YouTuber. How are you doing today, Christy?
Doing very well, thank you. I'm just Christy Abbey, known as Christy Abbey. So.
Gotcha, Christy. So I apologize for that. And then we have our resident philosopher, who is versed in it, named Perfict. How are we doing this evening, Perfict?
Howdy. Doing fine.
So, in relation to this show, we're going to be approaching the topic of Contrapoints' recent video that was published last week on the subject of cancel culture. So, I guess let's just start this off. What did everyone think of the topic of cancel culture that came up?
Do you want to start?
Anyone is welcome to open up and with their opinions. So.
Okay. My opinion, not so great. Like if you want to give me a general opinion, there's a lot of issues. I maybe have like 4 pages of notes. Not to say that everything she said was bad. It's just a lot of it was not so great. I don't know how much detail you want for this, but
I think.
Oh, sorry.
No, what I was going to say, I think that was a good start off. Well, we can approach what issues you had after we gave everyone an opportunity to share their views. So I guess let's go with Christy Abbey. Christy Abbey, what did you think about the Contrapoints video?
In general, I don't think she accomplished what she set out to do, and I think she tossed off the apologies a little too much. Although I did like that she explained what she was thinking in any given time, which I'd rather have an explanation than an apology sometimes.
And what about you, Perfict? What was your take from the video that you watched?
I liked the overall critique of the cancel culture. I'm not a big fan of the mob movement on that. But I liked that she also did cover that there's a reason for it existing. I also thought that she did a good job with the apologies and that she is sort of a flip person. So she was sort of handling them in a little flip. But that would be how she handles things, how she does everything.
Fair enough. So with it comes to my perspective after watching the video, I actually watched it twice, and I came through the understanding that I generally agree with a lot of her points regarding the cancel culture, the very notion. The few points that I do have in regards to the descriptors and the labels that she attaches to it, that I disagree from a historical perspective on what cancel culture actually is to what she was framing it. But we'll go from there. So I guess, does anybody have any disagreements with what anybody says, or does there anyone bring up any points of why they had an issue with the video or they liked the video? Or
sure. I've got like 4 pages of notes here. So first part was kind of whatever. I don't think James Charles is a good choice for showing the sort of wait, I have notes. How did I phrase that? The sort of cancel culture gone wrong type thing. Mostly because if you're talking about personal shit of someone, like the whole point of people calling out others is that there's not always tons of evidence. So a lot of times it's just rumors that you hear, just little bits, and that just keeps happening. and that's when you start to watch whether or not someone's questionable. That being said, there's also a lot of possibility of homophobia being a reason for people's attitudes. So it's hard to say if it was homophobia or if it was creepy attitudes that were just not described in great detail, because a lot of times with that stuff, you don't want to bring a bunch of other people in there to get mobbed by fans, especially if they're not expecting it or don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, I for me, when it comes to my position, I kind of agree with the. I don't think this Charles individual was a good choice either. But I do believe that the point she made does have some validity to it. That's why I agree, but also disagree because of this one note. For me, the biggest problem in regards to this is it's very hard to ascribe some form of guilt of the intent of these individuals. As everyone here knows, I'm a big person when it comes to a pattern behavior and when it comes to me making a conclusion on such opinion on person's motives and such. But I guess, what was your take on that, Christy or Perfict? Either one of you guys want to jump in?
Yeah, let me jump in on this. I actually went and did some research on the James Charles thing. And as you can probably, for those who actually can see me on the one stream, I'm not really that into the. Yes, I'm not really into beauty culture, and so I had to actually research what the hell happened, and it was a mistake for her to use that, because the way it went down is not quite the way she described it, and as much as I in this particular forum, I would probably get beaten up for it, but Essence of Thought went and gave a lot more context to it in the video today, which was pretty useful.
I didn't watch that video.
Neither did I, to be fair. So
yeah, it's fine, but I'd already done my research, and it was like, oh, you bastard, you got the video out 2 days before I did.
So real quick, so we could again make sure everyone has equal. So what was your? Do you have any feedback on what you've heard so far, Perfict, or any points you want to bring up?
Well, I just have trouble with the levying an accusation of guilt when you're basing it on a generalized feeling. The idea that it's, I can understand saying I don't want to watch, and saying I wouldn't recommend it to a friend, but I have trouble with saying that people should not be watching.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair thing. I think in general, what the point should be of calling someone out is for you to pay more attention to if that person does more iffy things. And when enough of that builds up, when enough iffy things builds up, you start to wonder, and iffy things that are all related to the same iffy thing. Like everyone does, everyone has bad takes. And people have reasons for them. It's just it's what?
No, go ahead, Alex. Go ahead. Please continue.
Oh, yeah. It's what you want to accomplish with that. I don't know. I lost my train of thought.
Fair enough. So let me give my 2 cents into this. So from my experience in the past of my really bad behavior that I once did to who I am now, this is my perspective, and anyone can feel free to disagree or agree with my position. But for me, when it comes to this supposed, I'm going to say this with quotation marks, cancel culture, I agree and disagree with the connotations that's behind it. And here's what I mean by that. if you look historically on what cancel culture actually is, it's somewhat synonymous with call-out culture. Now, call-out culture is exactly what's happening here. But to be fair, it's being done only by a fringe element of this demographic. It's not being done by everyone. And there are some bad faith actors out there that are construing the actions of the few to represent the whole, and that's a huge problem for me. But at the same notion, these small groups do have a very loud voice. And for me, my biggest issue is automatically labeling an individual a bigot or a biased toward a specific demographic without a strong pattern of behavior. Now, that pattern of behavior could be different for every person's perspective. But for me, coming from my background, I'm very strong in this view, because if someone goes into my past, sees my takes I once did back in 2013 to 2016, and I did some horrible things, people could still label me a bigot. People could still label me in this way. And for me, it's very hard for me to allow, quick judgments in regards to that. I don't know, maybe someone disagrees with that.
No, but I'm not a non-binary person. I can't speak for. I do think that use of Buck Angel is always going to be problematic, and
do you want to start on the Buck Angel thing? Because I've got a lot in the Buck Angel thing.
Yeah, feel free. I want to make sure. Like I said, I just want to make sure everyone has an equal share in talk time. So go ahead and fill your do your point, and I want to make sure Perfict and everyone else has a good chance to talk. So
yeah.
All right. Let me just real quick. My first thought on the Buck Angel thing was, I knew nothing about his online presence. I really didn't. All I knew, the guy with the pussy. That's pretty much all I knew. And Laura Jane Grace, the trans singer, the trans musician, featured him fairly heavily on her show, True Trans. And I'm not about to cancel Laura Jane over it, for God's sakes. And I know for a fact Laura Jane is very pro non-binary, because I spoke to the non-binary people that opened for her when she was here. So one of those, Buck Angel is a problem.
Yeah, see, I'm not going to say for 100% certain, because I just can't do it, that Buck Angel is a trans medicalist. There's enough meat in the bone to say that they are probably a trans medicalist, and I've even laid out my own counters of why I disagree with this position, because both it's used by some of the religious zealots in the Middle East against the trans community, and especially the LGBT community, especially if you're homosexual. And the other reason is because the trans med goes against the general consensus of mainstream science. There are organizations, for example, like the American Psychiatric Association, the World Health Organization, and many more, that clearly state that being considered transgender is not strictly a person that has gender dysphoria or is going through some type of treatment. There are other criteria that make individuals fit under this umbrella, if that makes any sense. Maybe everyone, what's your take, Perfict?
Well, I don't think that it requires that you be seeking any sort of change to your physiology.
Yeah, see, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Sorry. That if somebody says that they are male or female, that is what they are, and that is one of the ways that male or female can look, and it's your job to get used to that idea.
Yeah, I think that the respect of the individual's identity is incredibly important, but at the same time, we also have to help individuals with different viewpoints understand that when they say something that's not to the mainstream of society, and more importantly, the mainstream of science, in a way that's not disrespectful to them, in a way that hopefully is more. I guess my biggest thing is you have certain individuals on the opposing side they use this as a cudgel to do any form of critique of individuals. So instead of doing it in a way to help them explain why they're potentially wrong and having an honest goodness discourse on the topic, I've seen personally myself on social media, for example, certain individuals will be so blunt, so disrespectful, end up with ad hominems, go in this way that completely shuts down any form of discussion. And I really wish that didn't happen. And unfortunately, it's just an occurrence that happens on both sides in relation to this topic. More on one side than the other, to be fair.
Yeah.
So let's move on. So I guess the biggest question is, what is your guys' take on cancel culture? Do you guys believe that the way that cancel culture is done today is legitimate cancel culture? Do you believe it's something else? I guess that's the next way we should approach.
Shit, that was the one thing I didn't think too much about.
Fair enough. But if you can, Alex, what is your opinion on it? Like, just off the top of your head, if you can.
It like, I don't know. This one of those things where I'm like, I took a bunch of notes, but I didn't think about like the actual cancel culture part.
Fair enough. So how about you, Christy and Perfict? Do you guys have any viewpoints on the notion of cancel culture as how it's being portrayed today? Do you guys have any notions of that?
The problem is that cancel culture means a lot of different things, and I don't. The problem is that Natalie wasn't canceled, and that is my biggest problem with all of this. Is there are a lot of people that are mad justifiably with one thing that she did, and it blew up into something else, and she's part of that's her fault. And I don't think she was canceled, but she didn't handle it well at any point. So it didn't. I'll go. Let's go back to say Rationality Rules when he was canceled by a lot of people in the trans community, like most of them. He handled it so badly that there was no chance of him being uncanceled, and he was someone who was actually canceled. So,
fair enough. What about you, Perfict? What is your viewpoints on the current climate when it comes to quote-unquote cancel culture?
Well, I'm not sure what that I know everything that's going on with Buck Henry. And Buck Angel, sorry,
yeah,
Buck.
No problem.
Buck Angel.
I can explain it. Sorry.
Real quick. Let's
the viewpoints on it. But somehow it seems to me that if you just get an actor to do a voiceover for a little bit, that doesn't seem to me to be the crux of any issue. I mean, is it people's opinion that Buck Angel must die in the gutter? That he has committed some sin which cannot be forgiven?
Yeah,
and he has to die alone?
Yeah, if I can I think I understand your sentiments, Perfict, on this. Like, for me, I know this is going to get a lot of flack from myself regarding to this, but in every single regard, Buck Angel is still a trans individual. Yes, they have, by many appearances, to be a very bad take and a very exclusionary view, in my opinion. But at the same time, we should be trying to our best, and I'm not saying other people aren't doing this, but for me, we should try our best to try to maybe explain, and I'm not saying, again, people haven't done this, but try to get this individual to our side relating to this point. This doesn't mean that they are going to ever change their opinions, but at the same time, we still have to try. Like, I can give you clear examples of people that I have no problems denoting, in my opinion, of who I consider bigoted. I'm not going to name drop here, but I'm pretty sure we can obviously share some anecdotes later on who we personally think is that criteria. But for me, I don't think, in my opinion, Buck Angel is blatantly bigoted. I'm sorry, I'm going to get a lot of flack for that, but I don't.
Okay.
He does have. Go ahead.
Oh,
yeah.
So I mean, bigoted's a strong word.
That's the key point here for me, though.
It's hard to bigoted. Oftentimes implies intent, and sometimes that intent is hard to tell. I mean, trans-exclusionary feminists tend to they say mean things nicely. They say, "Oh, we don't mind. We don't have any problems with transgender people. Just every trans woman is secretly a man trying to rape everyone." You know. Like, and so I know Buck Angel retweeted a tweet from Lily Maynard, oh shit, I should have copied links to these tweets. I can find them pretty quickly. I have the text. I can link the retweet. Stupid.
Yeah, but real quick, if I can just add this real quick.
Twitter.
Alex, I just want to be clear here. I'm not saying that I don't think Buck Angel doesn't have some exclusionary beliefs that is considered harmful. For me, the criteria is this is the line I won't cross. For me, again, maybe I'm going to get reamed for this, but for me, an individual who that's the problem. I guess that's the focus I'm going for. Is going after the full-blown bigots, going after the people that literally talk against this community to do harm to such community. So policies, laws, the general consensus of the population do everything possible. For example, like the religious groups that we have here in the U.S. against this community. And I guess maybe my focus is maybe a little bit different. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I'll be happy to get any feedback on regards to that.
Wait, where's fuck? How can I find the retweet? I found the original tweet, but that's not Buck Angel retweeting it.
Yeah, because his commentary was not the best.
Yeah, him saying that. I mean, the thing Contrapoints used in our video was the only reason transgender person would say this is because they're not solid on their choice. So they feel threatened by who they are. I'm not threatened by the choice of transgender. So why are you threatened by mine? Think about it. That is very much a statement of suggesting that transgender people are just people who are confused, who don't know where they really stand on things.
So let me ask this question real quick. I'm not playing defense,
sure.
But I'm playing the devil's advocate here. Is it possible that a person like Buck Angel this is my opinion, but I believe that certain individuals have bought into a conspiracy theory that there is this massive movement of supposed, again, quote unquote, SJWs, denying biology, denying reality. And this is a point that is made a lot from the other side in regards to their viewpoints. But basically, they put this narrative that individuals like us are denying biology, we're denying the fact of science, so on and so forth. For example, they make the conflation that we are saying that biological sex and gender are the exact same thing. Yet, when throughout my experience, I've only seen a very, very slim fragment of trans individuals in this community ever make such a statement. They've probably said it in error, or maybe they truly believe that it's possible. But the overwhelming majority, such as you, Alex, Christy, Abbey, myself, we don't deny this fact. We don't deny what's the reality of things. And this is a straw man, a generalization these individuals use in relation to draw up this conspiracy. So I guess my question is it possible, do you guys think, that a person like Buck Angel has bitten into this possible conspiracy theory?
Yes. I mean, he retweeted how astonishing someone who describes themselves as non-binary displaying a tenuous grasp on reality. I think that suggests that he has definitely bought into that sort of attitude. He describes himself as did he describe himself? I forgot. He
describes himself as a transsexual.
Well, yeah, I know. I was born
trans-
biologically female. I use testosterone to masculinize myself so I feel more like me. I had a legal sex change and now live as a male. All male pronouns. I am transsexual and will never be biologically male, but I do live as a male. Simple. That was another Buck Angel comment. So yeah, I would say that Buck Angel has bitten into that conspiracy
and that's
just a bit.
So real quick, so I get everyone a fair chance because I don't want to overspeak anyone else. So what
sorry.
What about you, Perfict, and Christy? What do you guys think? Do you think that's a possibility?
Well, I mean, he is a transmedicalist, and that's what he is. And yeah, I think there is a conspiracy of I've had a lot of people don't believe in the non-binary, can deal with the binary because that's something they're used to, and there's a lot of people who just call non-binary people trenders. I've had a good friend of mine just say, well, the non-binary person in my house, well, I just see them as female. That's how they present. And I'm like, really? I just take people for what they say they are.
Yeah, and I generally agree with you on that sentiment, Christy.
No. I've had... Yeah, the conspiracy. I don't think I think the conspiracists is not where he's from, but he's from a place that never caught on to the idea of if there is a bimodal distribution of the sexual characteristics and because let's face it, transgender is a biological thing. Then there's going to be something in the middle of it. There has to be. There's not a way that can not be a thing. If you take your two bell curves and cross them a bit.
I understand. So Perfict. I mean, what is your take? Do you think it's potentially a theory they've bitten into, or maybe do you disagree?
It does sound from the information available right now that yeah, they're making the mistake of equating biology and identity, two totally separate issues.
Absolutely. So I guess, does everyone feel that we fairly addressed the Buck Angel thing in regards to the perspective? Does anybody want to add anything until we move on to the next topic in relation to this point?
I don't have anything more to say about Buck Angel.
Christy,
outside of the fact that I think I really dislike Buck Angel because I looked into him.
I understand. I mean, everyone has their own unique opinions.
Shit.
Go ahead.
Oh, shit. I want to say the one thing. I do agree with Contrapoints that Buck Angel probably didn't know Lana Wachowski was trans. There's no way to verify that for certain, and it's not necessarily a fair criticism of Buck Angel. There's plenty more actual criticisms that Contrapoints ignored.
Yeah, absolutely agree. That's the same. I did a lot of research for this because it was like, okay, I suppose I should know what I'm talking about.
And for everyone that may be watching, like for you guys that do have further research on this, we are more than welcome to like any additional information people put out. So as a request for both you, Alex, Christy, I would ask that you guys, if you guys can later on, if you could share that with me. And I'll be able to post that in the description tab after the post show. So anybody who watches this after the fact can get a good gist for your justifications in regards to why you have your opinions. Is that fair?
Fair. I mostly do the studying, and then I don't. I just figure it out from there. So I don't have direct link. I don't have direct links at this moment.
Yeah, but whenever you get the chance, Christy, I wouldn't expect it like right after the show. Whenever you get a chance, I'll hit you up whenever you get them, and then we'll just exchange information in regards to this, and then we'll just add it after the fact. Cool.
What I will do though, because it's sort of relevant, is I will link to the Laura Jane's True Trans series, which is
that
on.
That would actually be a good thing. Yeah, that would be great.
So, okay, good. We'll do that.
So let's move on to the to one of the points I wanted to make in regards to this discussion of supposed cancel culture. Now, I already mentioned in regards to the quote-unquote cancel culture. So does anybody here actually know where the actual definition of cancel culture comes from? Does anyone here actually know?
I don't. That was one of the things I didn't research.
I understand. How about you, Christy, Abbey, and Perfict? You guys happen to know?
I had assumed it was alliteratively alluring.
That's an interesting take.
As far as I've been able to research, Natalie got it right. So it's initially from R. Kelly.
Actually, she was half right. So it originated from R. Kelly in regards to the label cancel culture, but the actual origins of cancel culture goes to the Red Scare during McCarthyism, and I will be providing information on this to anybody who wants to view it at a later time. So this is where my disagreement on the very connotations of cancel culture actually is it's the label, it's the descriptor. Yes, there are people doing call-out culture, which is a complete they're synonymous with one another, but there are differences. So cancel culture, if you guys know anything about history, is during the 1950s, there was a guy named Joseph McCarthy who created the Senate Committee, who basically created an open forum and where they would openly accuse academics, actors, people in media, so on and so forth, of being communist sympathizers. Now, if you look at what happened during McCarthyism, those individuals were quote-unquote canceled. They were boycotted. They were, for 10 years, for some even longer than that, they were not allowed into the professions they once were. A good example, has anybody here seen the movie Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull?
I've seen bits of that movie.
How about you, Perfict? Have you seen it?
Yeah, but it's well in my rearview mirror.
Of course. So, and there's a part in the movie if you watch that movie, if you watch the very beginning, there's a part of that movie in where after he goes to this ordeal with the Russians, he's being confronted by 2 FBI agents. And during that time, they accuse Indiana Jones of being a spy for the Russians. And right after his interaction with these individuals, he gets fired from his university because supposedly he's being investigated for being a communist sympathizer. And that's exactly what cancel culture actually was. You had a whole bunch of people who are left-leaning predominantly, who were basically expunged from their professions, be it either movies or whatever, or academia, and not being allowed to work in that profession until McCarthyism nearly died in the 60s. So I guess after conveying that information, what is your guys' take on that?
Can I say something silly, if you don't mind?
Of course.
We're all assuming people know who Buck Angel is, but don't know about the McCarthy hearings.
Okay, so fair enough. So if you're not historically sounded, which is possible, Joseph McCarthy was a Republican senator that I don't know the exact dates he was a senator, but I know he was ostracized from Congress not too long after McCarthyism ended. But basically, Joseph McCarthy initiated a government action to basically paint people as communists. So that's one of the reasons why you have the term McCarthyism. You hear certain individuals on the opposing side use the terminology, this is nothing more than a modern-day McCarthyism. because that's literally what they're saying is happening. So when I hear people like on the other side say they're doing cancel culture, and they use that in synonymous terms with McCarthyism, like they say that this is a modern day McCarthyism because of those connotations. Does that make more sense?
Yeah. Oh no, I was being a little bit silly. Just it's we never explained Buck Angel, but McCarthy is what much better known is what I was trying to get to.
I apologize. So yeah, like go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead,
I didn't. Oh, I didn't know Buck Angel until Opulence, and people started talking about it. I'm just like, wait, who is he?
Yeah, I, to be fair, I didn't know much about Buck Angel until about a year ago, but I actually I had a previous exposure to this individual. I just didn't know their name, to be fair. So, what about you, Perfict? Did you know who Buck Angel was prior to, did you know him recently, or did you just find out about them, or?
Somebody had recommended some porn, saying this is going to be some porn, which is you're going to go, about. And so
that's needed.
Oh, yeah.
But real quick, so I could wrap up the point. But that's the only thing I really wanted to bring up in regards to cancel culture. I agree. Just kind of like to wrap up this topic, because I think we've hit it on pretty good for the last 35 minutes in regards to our own perspective. Of course, I'm going to allow everyone to have a last say in regards to this topic. But for me, in my personal take, cancel culture is basically people have chosen this terminology to define what other people do in regards to the synonymous term of call-out culture. It's not real cancel culture, though. It's people trying to get other people to no longer support others, and sometimes in very irrational ways. That's my take. I don't agree with the small elements that do this in regards to other without a proper justification of repeated pattern of behavior to justify such a action toward these individuals. So that's my take. Feel free to give you guys' last bits.
It's also got the same sort of thing with the contagion that associating with any communist will get you labeled as a communist.
That's a very fair point, Perfict, but please continue.
So that's what that like with Buck Angel, the amount of association which being in a Contrapoints video suddenly makes Contrapoints and the subject to seems weird.
What about you, Christy, Abbey, and Alex? Do you guys have any take on this, or any last final words on this topic that you guys want to bring up?
Yeah, you can call me Christy. It's fine.
I apologize.
No, it's not a problem. I have the benefit, quote unquote, of knowing Natalie long before the Contrapoints channel. And we, I think, hated each other because I was then and remain an SJW, and she was then quite the shitlord. I don't think that channel is even on the Wayback Machine anymore. But so I have a lot more leeway when it comes to her because I saw where she came from. Makes any sense? I give a little more to.
If I can just add to that, what you just made, Christy, I'm 100% on board with what you just said, because as I mentioned earlier, if people look at my past, I was very, very, very irrational. I did some really bad things that I'm not proud of at all. And what you just said, like the way you were presenting it is exactly how I look at it as well. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
What about you, Alex? Do you have any final takes on this topic?
Yes, I've got. Okay. So I'm gonna rush through my nitpicky. Let's see here. I didn't like the way that she changed the subject by mentioning the amount of time Buck Angel was on her video, because that's not really the point. The point is that she had Buck Angel and the implied support. I think obviously I get the feeling that Contrapoints is favoring friendship over ethics and it's sort of like loyalty over ethics, which is fine. Contrapoint saying that didn't actually mention that Bug Angel called whatever, that's less important. I've got a lot of notes, sorry. So she made declarations about being able to change bonds by connecting with people and no way to change, but also said there's no way to change the minds of trans Twitter and disconnects from trans Twitter. And also there's like giving trans Twitter a personality is like a weird move. I get that a lot of this is probably defensive. And it's not about the number of quality videos. She just needs to have a good one. And it sounds like a lot of people don't like a lot of her videos about non-binary people in general. Obviously, performative theory does not equal transmedicalism, and Natalie's just got like weird things people have issues with, but that they can't describe, so they label her a transmedicalist. I don't think she's a transmedicalist. I hate her giving up on rational explanations for gender identity. It's not that complicated to have an explanation for gender identity. I don't know, Christy, you can back me up if I'm correct in any way on this. Social identity theory explains gender pretty well. A lot of stuff has been lumped into gender, and it's hard for people to identify with the binary. Sometimes there are even actions that make true men and true women, along with the physical characteristics. The physical characteristics obviously being a priority thing, but that might be a factor in non-binary. And also, obviously, there's physiological aspects of the physical dysphoria, and why dysphoria isn't a requirement is because people have different labels of what pain is. People have a different label of what. There's a lot of aspects where they could be two people can experience the same thing, and one can say it's awful, and one can say it's just great to have the opposite of that. I mean,
yes. Actually, relative privation works just as well in gender theory.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to take that note. Relative privation. I like to learn things.
Yeah. Well, this is more Perfect's area. The idea of relative privation. I can tell you what it's like in rat brains, but it does work in gender theory as well. So, what is dysphoria becomes a relative thing depending on everything. But I experienced great dysphoria that I couldn't label, and it was very painful. My best friend, she just said, "Oh, I always knew I was a girl. That's it."
Yeah, so real quick, so I don't want to be disrespectful to the time constraint, on the show, but I just want to just put out that we are now taking calls, which means we're going to continue the conversation. Please keep what you guys are saying in mind. We're going to continue it. But if you're interested in speaking to us on any questions that you may have, feel free to enter our Discord. The link is in the description tab below. I will be happy to pull you in one at a time.
I will. I'm going to link. I'm just saying I'm going to link the thing into stream chat.
Absolutely, I appreciate that. And the same thing goes with everyone. But again, if you are interested in voicing your opinions on the Contrapoints video, the concept of cancel culture, as we've discussed in the last 45 minutes, feel free to enter our Discord. Wait in the call-in section of the Discord channel, and we'll be happy to pull you in for you to ask us any questions, and we'll just continue on the conversation until we get people to come in. So please continue, guys. I didn't mean to be rude and cut you off.
Wait, who's talking? Oh, I forgot.
Well, either way, whoever wants to. You guys were talking about gender identity and such.
Oh, yeah. So those two things pretty much, the part of your brain recognizing what parts of the body of yours are yours is the other big aspect that I'm aware of that is really helpful for understanding things, and that doesn't always work with like absolutes for binary. Also, I don't know why in 48 minutes 33 seconds she gave a link that she said was mid-thread, but it was clearly at the start of a thread. I mean, that fuck up, if it's a fuck up, it doesn't look good. If she's being completely honest, or sorry, if it's fuck up, it doesn't look good, even if you're honest. And if she was lying to make her points look better, that's not good. I'm not going to imply that. I don't want to imply that I know her intent, and I'm not, because like there's a million ways you can fuck up on things like this, and you know she could have missed it with editing. It's just a weird mistake to make. Also, just some of the things that she didn't have access, and she didn't voice her criticism of things. She tended to. She complained. Okay, so the biggest thing is she complained about the people moving things into like us versus something, which is another part of social identity theory. I'm pretty sure, Christy, you can correct me if I'm wrong. There, in terms of instinctual moving stuff into categories.
That's Perfict's area.
Oh, well, I mean, social identity theory is a psychological theory, I thought.
Well, yeah, it's sociological and it's psychological, but sociological and philosophical. It kind of covers all the bases on that.
Yeah, so people do seem to, at the very least, instinctively group things up, and Contrapoints does too, even though she has a problem, or she expresses a problem with it, because Contrapoints given how much Contrapoints ignored any problems with Buck Angel, who, you know, even though Buck Angel is impactful, but like that's not a good reason to ignore all the negative things. And you can say positive things while she did acknowledge some of the negatives of Buck Angel, but like I don't know. She seemed to use kitty gloves with Buck Angel.
Yeah, see, for me, I generally agree with a good portion of what you guys are saying. I think that Contra was kind of playing it safe, but I think she has a reasonable. I think she has a good reason for playing it safe in some ways, because I think one of the motives in regards to a lot of these prominent social media personalities is they want to try to outreach to as many people as possible. And I think that's one of the issues that I'm seeing a lot of people have is in regards to exclusion. And I'm not saying what she was correct. I'm trying to be fair and balanced here in regards to this, but I think that the same standard is happening with a lot of YouTube personalities. They have a hard time taking a position on something because they don't feel like they want to ostracize a certain demographic of people potentially being shown their content or their perspective. Maybe people disagree with that take, but that's my opinion.
I have more to say on that later, actually.
Of course. And again, real quick, I just want to add that we are still taking call-ins. If you have an interest in speaking to us, feel free to jump into our call-in segment of our Discord channel. The link is in the description tab below, and we'll be happy to pull you in to answer any questions that you may have. I guess the next part we can go into in regards to this is please keep in mind like things you want to bring up relating to the original topic of counterpoints and cancel culture we're speaking on for the third half of the show. But I guess let's start with so I asked you guys to bring in one topic that you felt was incredibly important, or it was important to you guys that you wanted to be addressed. So whoever wants to start off first, that would be great. So I guess who wants to go first?
I did the least prep, so I'm gonna try to go last and hope I don't get called into class.
Okay. How about Christy or Perfect? Do you guys want to bring up your topic?
Let Perfict go because I've been talking a lot. So
All right,
Okay,
Perfect.
mine is just the off topic, but it's the secular division of church and state, and that
Fascinating.
my big push is the political idea that we should be removing the guaranteed nonprofit status from churches and making them prove their nonprofit status just like every other nonprofit organization.
That is actually a great topic to put up. I'm doing a disservice to everyone here, but I think that generally we would probably get a consensus of individuals here agreeing with you. Perfect. Now I'm going to give you the reason why I agree with you is the way that currently churches are worked. There is a lot of abuse within these organizations, and these abuses. One of the ways they get away with it so much is because of the lack of transparency within these organizations. And for me, growing up as a Jehovah's Witness in the past, I know firsthand from my seeing this organization how it runs, how these in regards to the JWs, how they can get away with so many things that in other aspects of the public market, other than a church or a religious organization, they would probably either get fined, taxed heavily, audited, or something negative that typically other associations would be affected by, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, as well. Well, one of the things that I view as being the political capital to work with is that it would end the pedophile shuffle that the Catholic are able to do because they simply don't have to surrender their records at this point. But if they have to have records of their employees, then they'd have to have records.
So I can make sure everyone has an equal amount of time. So what is your guys' take on this, Alex and Christy?
I'll hit this one first. You know, all the people suing a church because of molestation. Yeah, I'm one of those people.
See,
So real quick, Christy, so we can be respectful to your experience. Are you currently going through this situation? If you don't want to say, I can respect that too.
You cut out.
I apologize if I cut out. What I asked
No, Christy.
Oh, I apologize.
I can't hear you, Christy. Oh no. She's saying a lot.
Yeah, it doesn't look like Christy is coming through. There may be a technical issue going on right now.
Yeah, there seems to be a technical issue.
Oh, there you are, Christy. Welcome back.
Okay, I see what happened. All right. Just real quick. I found out that the person who molested me is still a pastor in the church, and is still working with kids. So.
Wow, I am so sorry to hear that, Christy. Wow.
I am sorry. I was not trying to make it a scam.
It's not. It's one of those things that I'm very open about things because I don't know why. I just am. But I'm it's not a scab. It's something I'm very vocal about.
Thank you.
So I guess let me just put it like this, and out of respect for everyone here, let's just say it's the point that the topic that Perfict brought up is probably something you would vigorously, because your personal experience would be in strong advocation for. Would that be correct to say? Would that be fair to say?
Yeah. There should be some protections for the church, but I think there should be many fewer. Oh my God, there's no way to make that sentence grammatical. There should be far fewer protections than there are, and I'm okay with anonymity on certain things. I actually have I am very open, but I have a very hard time vocalizing this particular thing.
And to be fair, Christy, that is completely fair. So just to be out of respect for you, I'm going to move on to Alex. If you feel like you want to jump in, feel free at any time.
There's not a lot for me to say. I mean, I agree. Like when you're talking about separating because of cults, because of ways that people can go through loopholes and exploit people, exploit poor people, exploit children, do all sorts of. There are a lot of terrible things you can do if you slap the label religious on it, and that shouldn't be the case. I mean, there's a lot of good you can do by describing how you feel about religious stuff, but there's also a lot of bad that can be done just by saying, or not just by saying, by exploiting any sort of religious term or religious terminology. So I agree with Perfict. There's not a lot to say.
Fair enough. So Perfict. I guess what do you think would be an appropriate solution to resolve the issue that you think that is currently going on? The topic you brought up, but like what solutions would you offer to hopefully fix this issue?
Oh, just the very simple. You move them to the same. They have to prove their nonprofit status, just like every other 501c3 organization. They have to show their books and show what they're doing with the money and show what percentage goes to good works and all of that, that they just have to have open books. It also prevents the state from showing favoritism for some religions by recognizing them in this way and not recognizing others, that's direct favoritism, which they're doing now, which they're not supposed to.
Yeah, I think one of the key things that a lot of, like, one of the biggest problems in relation, if I can just add this 2 cents in regards to this, that there is a huge movement called Christian nationalism. And I'm not saying that other religions don't have the same connotation, but there is a huge movement going with this Christian nationalist movement that they want to supplant what has been, documented for centuries here in the U.S., for example, regarding the very notions of separation of church and state. Now, to be fair, of course, it's not in the Constitution, but the indications, the actual implications of this very concept was written by our founding fathers. It's written into the core of the American of the First Amendment in regards to freedom of speech, and freedom of religion, so on and so forth. And to me, you have a movement, as I've already mentioned, trying to drive us against that very notion. And I think it's a very dangerous thing, in my opinion, for several reasons that I'll be happy to go over. So I guess the question is, does anybody agree with my take or have any additional feedback?
Well, I'd be interested in hearing more, but
yeah, we'll go over that in the third segment. So if you have any,
cool.
When it comes to all the topics we bring up, guys, so for everyone to know who's watching, so when it comes to topics we bring up during the third half of the show, this is going to be our free reign discussion. We will have an open discussion with anyone in regards to anything brought up during the call-ins, and while also speaking on the main topics and the topics brought up by the host. And then during that, we're just going to see a free-flowing discussion, and then we'll address any questions that come up maybe on the YouTube chat, and then we'll just wrap up from there. So that will be the third half of the segment. So So I guess who wants to get to the guillotine next? Who's next?
Can you do it, Alex? I'm kind of. I thought I was a little better with what I said than I am. So I need.
I think we should give you a little bit of time because of that was a sensitive topic that we brought up for you, Christy. So I understand that.
Okay. Okay, so I had the least preparation, almost none. I just had something on the back of my mind. Just the. Okay, so there is that recent thing that Vosh did, where he's like, I totally forgot. Like, I can open up the clip and send you.
Yeah, like I said,
it's on YouTube.
Yeah, we're an open, and for everyone's knowledge, we are try to be as transparent as possible. So if there's a topic someone brings up, no matter what it is, we're going to be open to everyone in regards to the evidence or whatever links that we share. So if you have it, feel free to share it, Alex, and I'll project it for everyone to see on the topic that we're addressing regarding this point. So.
Okay. I mean, this is the video, but I'm not going to do the entire video.
Yeah, and so this is the one from about him being ambiphobia, correct? Am I correct on that?
Yeah, although I wouldn't say that's the problem. Like he's got much more of an ableism take than anything else. But and I don't remember it exactly. It's around 19 minutes 20 seconds into the video. The hot take, which Vosh agrees with everything he said in the past, but then doubles down at the end.
So let me make sure everyone understands. So what did he double down on, Alex? So to be fair,
something that I think it's everyone who criticized. It was like he was attacking criticism against Contrapoints, and he said that they're all a bunch of.
Was this the take on reactionary? Was that the point? Like where he said that his original take was reactionary in nature? Was that it, or?
Yeah, in his original take, he said he was being reactionary, and he's just like, nah, this is totally what it is. Like, this isn't reactionary at all. But he also agreed with everything he said here. Something about, a bunch of queer basement dwellers who are just who are leeches on the back of society, I believe is what he said.
Okay. Well, as everyone could see here, that's the video in question that you can clearly see on the screen right now. So I'm gonna provide a link to this video so everyone understands what we're talking about in relation to this subject. I'm gonna link it in the chat so everyone gets context. Go ahead, Alex.
Should I do a YouTube share link?
Well, no, I shared it in the. If you want to share it on your end, on where your guys are.
Well, I am. Yeah, I was just meant that we could all. Whatever, we'd all be in the exact same spot, but whatever.
Well, real quick, so
I'm at
I don't want to make
20.
so real quick, Alex. If I can just say this, I want to hear your perspective on this, but at the same token, one of the things I want to try to do is, like I mentioned throughout, like me promoting this, is I want to be fair and balanced. And this is not to say that we don't want to hear your points, but at the same time, I want the audience to make their own determination. So it's not because your points aren't fair. but I just want to make sure that we're not indicating any form of our own insinuation or potential biases on everyone else making that determination. That's the only thing I'm trying to prevent here. So
that is true. I'm sorry.
no, don't
Ignore
apologize, Alex.
everything what I
I
said about my opinion. This is a thing that happened.
But Alex, I want to be very clear here. I want you to voice your opinion because that's incredibly important. And your take is I would say is a fair point to make because it could be shared by other people within this community. So that's why it's incredibly important that you do share your points. Now, I don't know if others in the show right now share your viewpoints. We'll be happy to go over them. But as I said, I've already provided the link to the video in question. You said the timestamp was 19 minutes and 45 seconds on the video, correct?
19 minutes and 28 seconds is around what I have.
Seconds. So if anybody wants to see connotations on what we're speaking at, so we're being transparent on the topic that Alex is bringing up, feel free to watch it at that timestamp. Again, it's at 19 minutes, 28 seconds. Feel free to mute us if you want to listen to us.
Basically, Fox is going through like a lot of different clips, and I assume likely agreeing with himself. It was a bit before I got the timestamp on this.
Yeah, and so real quick. So let's start with the very beginning. Would it be fair to say, Alex, that your topics is, let's say, just like Vosh? Would that be the topic you want to bring up? Would that be fair to say?
I think mostly Vosh seems to value his egoism above any sort of ethics.
Gotcha. I think we in a previous discussion that we had, I actually tend to somewhat agree with that as well. That it's a form of egoism. But again, people can disagree with my take on that as well. But this is from my perspective. So let's be fair here. Christy, I guess let me ask this. I'm pretty sure everyone pretty much knows that me and Alex have a pretty good understanding of who we have our opinions on Vosh. What do you guys know of this individual, Perfict and Christy? Do you guys know them anything about this individual, or?
I know nothing about him.
Okay, fair enough. What about you, Christy?
I think he Dirtbag Left I have problems with here and there, and especially when they go into this kind of shit. I'm a disabled person, and it's fucking rough on me sometimes. It's just you get this take that everybody who's disabled is just kind of scamming the rest of everybody, and it's not like that, for God's sakes. I want to work. I'm working very hard at what I've been doing. It's just I can't do a lot of the things normal people can do. God, I didn't. Sorry to use that term. Shit.
No, but I think.
I know what you meant. Like it's
real quick, so I can make sure that Perfict has I'm going to give you my best stillman here, Perfict, to be completely genuine to everyone in question on this discussion. And if anybody has a difference of opinion on my take, feel free to question it. So I can just give you a gist of what we're talking about, Perfict. Vosh is, at first he started off as an anarcho-syndicalist, but he shifted to a more pragmatic or more conventional social democrat. He does have a very strong socialist viewpoint, but one of the things that he has built his notoriety on is in regards to he previously had a take months ago in where he committed harassment of, I think it was 1 or 2 females on the internet, and he publicly apologized. Some people thought his apology was not sincere. I
was one of the people. Oh, sorry.
No, I'm just trying to be fair. I'm not trying to.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to use language to say that he's guilty. I'm just trying to be steelman as being objective as possible. But that's what he became his notoriety in regards to his infamy. But one of the things Vosh is known for is he has had many discussions with Nazis. He's had discussions. Do you know who Destiny is, Perfict?
Yes, I do.
Okay, he has similar connotations to Destiny. They are in conflict with one another, unfortunately, too. But he has similar debate skills as Destiny does. In my opinion, this is again completely subjective to me. He does a little bit better than Destiny, but Vosh basically has like he does debates with Nazis, with people that oppose mostly left-wing views. But one of the controversial things about Vosh is people say he's transphobic. People say he's ambiphobic, which means he's bigoted or has a bigotry toward non-binary individuals because of his enablist language and the way he sometimes speaks about this community. So, for example, he'll say words like the F word, F-A-G-G, you know what word I'm talking about. He'll say words such as T-R-A, I'm not going to finish it, but he uses slurs in some facets in regards to his talking points. And a lot of people disagree with him on there. So, Christy and Alex, is that a pretty fair summation of who Vosh is? Is that pretty fair?
Well, I mean, obviously, I don't think his apology was worth it. B, he got banned from Twitch for his. I want to say he said something about like that Israel should be nuked or something like that. Got him banned off of Twitch. I don't remember.
I got you. Like I said,
I think Destiny's better, a better debater than Vosh. That's my opinion.
Opinions vary.
Yeah, I know you're being fair. I'm saying my opinion, but anyway, go on.
Fair enough. But so, Christy, would you agree that the way I laid out to Perfict on who Vosh is, would that be a fair summation on the issues he's done? And maybe I've missed a couple things, but generally, do you think that's a pretty fair analysis?
I keep trying to give Vosh another chance, and like I said, I've followed him here and there for a while. I had a really, really long argument with him at one point when he made a seriously transphobic joke. And I keep wanting to give him another chance. Destiny is a lot more controlled in the way he debates. So he doesn't have the sudden blurt out of what we would charitably call gamer talk.
Well, I mean, Destiny does have the occasional gamer talk blurt out.
He does have his blurts out, to be fair.
Yeah.
No, but I just want to make sure. So, but do you guys think that the way I described Vosh to Perfict, so he has a good understanding of what we're talking about, was that pretty?
Yeah.
I missed probably some points, but you think it's? I did it in a way that you guys would accept to be a fair analysis of who he is. Would you guys agree?
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think he should have. I don't think he should have necessarily been banned from Twitch for his hot take that was a bad take, but yeah, that's pretty fair.
Okay, so with that being in mind, Perfict. So basically, if you ever get a chance, we can approach this next week on our next show. So we can go back to this topic. So I want to make sure it's fair for everyone on the show, so they get a good gist of who this person is. So, so far, what you've been told based on my steelman of this individual, Perfict, what is your opinion so far of what I just said? If you take what I said as to be face value correct.
Might be interested in looking at him for the debate skills, but otherwise, I'm probably not that interested.
Fair enough.
I mean, does that?
I mean, to be fair, I'm not that interested either. I just legit did not do good planning, and I was like, I remember this. I have an opinion on this.
and that's perfectly well, guys. This is like I said, this is a free flowing. I don't expect everyone to have the top-notch debate skills or conversations. This is just, I know it was I think it was kind of to be fair. I kind of brought this up at the last minute. It was 5 days ago, relating to asking you guys to do this. But I appreciate you guys doing it nonetheless. So,
well, yeah, and wanted to try. I mean, that was why I watched the Contrapoints video twice, because the first time I watched it, I knew is the most likely for me to have a reactionary opinion, and it's good to step away and watch things again so I can have a more reasoned opinion, because I care about that. I will watch the Essence of Thought video later, though. I know my roommate did already, so he's got his own opinions on that whole situation. But anyways, do you want to hear what Bosch said?
Well, real quick, if I can just say this. So would this be fair for everyone here? Because Perfict isn't really familiar with this individual. Is it fair for you, Alex, if we maybe approach this topic? I'm not trying to ignore what you're saying, but would it be fair if I
get you're canceling me?
Oh, come on.
No.
No, but real quick, so I just want to be fair to everyone here.
Yeah,
is it okay
that's
with
totally
everyone
fair.
here?
I'm fine with that.
Is it okay if everyone here, Perfict included, that later next week we may come back to this? I'll give you some information, Perfict. If you don't really generally care, you can come up with the same position next week. But I'll forward you on some information about this individual so we can come back. And if you still have the same opinion, you have the same opinion. Is that cool? Is that cool with you, Perfict?
Sounds cool with me.
All right, awesome. And is that okay with you guys, Christy and Alex? Would that be okay?
Yeah, no. I'm totally fine with that.
How about you, Christy? You're okay with that?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, awesome. So you wanted to go last, right, Christy, on the topic?
I can come up with another topic if you still want to buy time. I thought of one just now.
Let me hit it and
let's
keep it down. All right. I've been having this thing lately, and when we started talking about cancel culture, it was I'd already started working on a video for my own channel, and I realized I'm really not good at just doing videos. I'm more good at conversations. So I wanted to when I got invited to this, and you said pick a topic, I was right there because I knew exactly what I wanted to talk about. And it does have to do somewhat with cancel culture. I am having a lot of trouble with being friends with or friendly with different groups of people, and being told here and there that I can't be friends with this person if I want to be friends with this person, and I can't be friends with this. Somebody even somebody unfriended me that I was friends with Alex.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know what.
If I can just mention, so you're talking about like a form of guilt by association. Is that pretty fair to say, Christy?
Well, somewhat, yeah. I mean, look, I'm friends with both of the people who make up Essence of Thought. You know that, right? And I consider them. They've been very good to me. As friends, but I'm also, and the objectively subjective group, but I've also been friends with Cirrus, semi-friends with Cirrus. We've worked together to help some trans people out, and Shannon Q, and a lot of people that for some reason are like, well, you can't be their friend if you are friends with, and I'm like, this is fucking middle school stuff, and it bothers me because I give people as much chance as I possibly can, and my entire outlook on it. I was talking to my ex-wife. My ex-wife's in the other room, so I was talking with her about it. I said that, you know, one of the reasons I don't give up on people very easily is because I've done a lot of stuff in my life where, because I was so angry and hated myself so much, that people should have given up on me, and they didn't. So I don't see why I should give up on people on first or even second offense. I get people being hurt, but I don't get people being hurt to the point where they say, if you are friends with this person, I can't be friends with you. All of my interviews canceled this month.
Wow.
For this particular.
So if I can give you my position on this topic, so I'm not going to plead innocent on this. So months ago, about a year ago almost, I was guilty of doing a ton of guilt by association, and I was wrong. And I did it, and I'm regretful that I did it. And I have no problem admitting to anyone that I did it, and I was incorrect for doing so. So as I've already had discussions with everyone here relating to my own positions with regards to this topic, I'm going to start off with the person that was name dropped, Essence of Thought. I don't have anything personally against Essence of Thought or even professionally. I think that the reasoning for them doing their content is for a good cause. I think they're a good person. I think that the reasonings of why they do their content is generally for a good reason. They do it out of the goodness of their heart. I think that they're good-hearted in nature. But my biggest criticism of Essence of Thought, to be fair, is the methods that they are trying to convey relating to their narrative. And that's a huge problem for me. In my opinion, again, I'm probably going to get flack for this, but I'm going to be truthful. At Essence of Thought, the group, I'm going to signify it in regards to Peter Ethel in relation to this. But in my opinion, this individual is too quick to base judgments of other individuals. Again, people can disagree with that, and that's fine. But that's what I've seen from perceptions. I've seen from their interactions on social media. Again, I understand that they would have this animosity. I understand why they would have this this drive, I wouldn't use the word hatred because it's not the correct word. I'm trying to find a better word to project regards to like this animosity that they have. But the way that you use this energy, the way you project this energy, and if you do it in a bad way, it's not in the way that it's like detrimental, but it's bad optics. It doesn't make you look good. Like I've known Essence of Thought. They project. They state that maybe I'm wrong on this, but they believe in secular humanism, and I respect them for that. And I also am a big adherent to this philosophy. But for me, the way that they are quick to judge, in my opinion, goes against that very concept. And that's again my own 2 cents on regards to that. Does anybody disagree with that, or?
I disagree with it only on one particular thing, and not to bring too much private information.
Of course.
When all of a sudden I was having you have to choose moments here, and I'm getting Twitter things and I'm getting DMs and all over the place. The next morning it was Peter Ethel and Udita who checked on me first to make sure I was okay. They were the ones who didn't do this. So
yeah, and I just want to be clear. I think that Peter Ethel and the group known as Essence of Thought, I think generally that they are good people. I think they are good-hearted people. I think they try their best because everyone makes mistakes in relation to their talking points. But I also can't bypass some obvious appearances in regards to criticisms I have on their techniques. I think that the way they approach different topics is a tad harsh. Now, for some, I'll bring this up. When it came to the situation with Rationality Rules, I've made my position on this pretty clear on social media, but I'll rephrase it here. When it came to that situation, in my opinion, Stephen Woodford, also known as Rationality Rules, acted very bigoted in his talking points. Yet I am not going to add the label of him being an active transphobe. The key word is active. He did do some very bad takes, bigoted takes, during his initial discussion of those topics. But I don't consider him an active transphobe as I would define other people. And for me, when I see individuals continuously projecting this this label onto an individual when maybe they're just being smart about it. Maybe they are this way and they're being smart about it, not showing it publicly. Maybe they're not, and they're just genuinely made a mistake. Who knows? I don't know. To me, I just have a problem attaching a label to someone unless I have concrete evidence to make that determination.
Out of curiosity, what is because I forget, I know we've talked about this before.
Of course.
What do you consider to be an active transphobe?
Absolutely, that's a good question. So for me, I will name drop one person here. I consider Ben Shapiro an active transphobe. If you look at Ben Shapiro's content, you look at his talking points, you look at his motives, it is clearly he has a form of irrational bias toward the trans community as a whole. So, and he continuously does it. He's not abashed on his talking points, speaking on this community. So that's an example I can give. There are other examples I can give of who I consider an active transphobe. Now, I'm more than welcome to accept evidence from other people on why they consider other individuals active bigots. But that's what I mean by active. So maybe people disagree with my take with Ben Shapiro, but that's what I consider an active bigot toward the trans community.
No, Ben Shapiro is absolutely a transphobe. He's an active bigot and an activist against us. I do not think Stephen Woodford is an activist against us. I do think he is accidentally transphobic, which is the stupidest thing I probably will say today. But
no, I just won't. I don't want. See, I'm going to just say this for everyone that may be watching this now or in the future. Understand, guys, that we all have our opinions. We all have to provide, of course, justifications for such opinions. But at the same time, we have to be fair. We have to be able to convey our opinions on this. And this is one of the reasons why I built this platform. This is one of the reasons why I have so many people with different perspectives on this show. Because I wanted people to share their opinions, even if we disagree fundamentally. We can still share points that we may have. But don't be rude. Perfict hasn't said anything in the last 5 or 10 minutes, and I apologize for that, Perfict. That's my fault for being the moderator. But do you have any takes on this subject, sir?
Well, I think that I try and keep in mind that Ben Shapiro might have an entirely different personality, which is his own, but his public persona is bigoted towards transphobe. It's transphobic. It absolutely is transphobic. There's no room to argue. He shows all the signs, including the pattern of behavior over a period of time, which is necessary for diagnosing it. That would be my main comment.
So I guess since we brought up, what is your thoughts on the individuals we've mentioned so far? Do you have any feedback in relation to Essence of Thoughts or any of the other individuals we brought up, like Stephen Woodford or so on and so forth?
Essence of Thoughts videos, too often he ascribes a motivation to somebody, Stephen Woodford particularly, and that causes problems. That is a break in the logic that causes problems with me in the videos. Stephen Woodford, the first video, people will argue that it wasn't transphobic, and I'm like, look, within the framework of the video, when you say over time, pattern of behavior over time, when you say it's 12 minutes of video, that's the period of time. And it definitely is transphobic. That first video he put out, which is no longer directly available, I have a link to it, but it's not on his channel openly. And that I imagine other people have links to it. You can find them from your friends. Yeah. It's if you want, I can dig one up and put it here.
Sure. For future reference, as I said before, all the things we talk about in context, I will ask the co-hosts to share later on after the show. So I'll add them to the description tab if they have it available. If not, I'll hit them up later on in the week, you guys, and pull that information from you, and then we'll just make sure we're being as transparent as possible. But please continue, Perfict.
Yeah, I have maintained that I can make that case in basically a court of law that is transphobic. The video is transphobic, but that doesn't mean that's an incident of behavior. And for Woodford, the video is an incident of behavior, and I'd need a series of incidents over.
Well,
He's provided some, but not really enough to make me say that he is behaving transphobic. That.
Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, so I think, in general, I've been trying to get better at sticking to the facts, just in terms of any sort of arguments I end up having on Twitter or all sorts of things. So the concerning aspect of his video is everything about the argument. Well, Rationality Rules' videos are incredibly irrational. They require, because he creates an entirely different set of framing. Because sports has traditionally been about competition. We don't nitpick every aspect of a person to decide if it's fair. Now, that being said, if it can't really be a competition anymore, then there's a problem. Why there's
real
weight
quick, Alex, I'm not trying to be rude. So right now we have Essence of Thought. Welcome to the live stream, Essence. It's a pleasure having you on. I welcome your voice. Essence, I'm going to extend an invitation to you. I am more than welcome. You have people here trying to be fair and balanced to you as much as possible. We're not. I told everyone here, I don't have anything personally against you. I think everything that you do, in my opinions, is in good nature. I think you're a good-hearted person. If you'd like to give your feedback either here or in chat, you're more than welcome to join us on our Discord. You will find us to be incredibly open and fair in regards to your positions. But I'm going to address your
I will fangirl over you.
But real quick,
I shouldn't have said that.
There's a comment. So I'm going to read their comments verbatim so everyone gets context here. So Essence of Thoughts writes, I gave Woodford an entire month, and I agree with that. You did give them an ample amount of time, Peter Ethel, so I agree with you there. Then he continues, I didn't call Woodford a transphobe until this video 6. And again, I agree with you. I've seen this. Then he continues, June. First video started in April. First time I labeled Woodford a transphobe, June the 15th. Then Zavars writes, great video today, by the way. And Discord is not working on my end. I understand, Peter Ethel. I apologize if I wish we had the opportunity to discuss this. If anybody here, if you'd like to, go ahead.
Would you happen to have Zoom or another? Like, I'm trying to think of other platforms.
Well, how about this?
They're also.
Real quick.
It's not going to be helpful.
Peter. So to be fair with you, because I think you are a decent representation of the trans community, and I again have nothing personally or professionally against you. Would you be available, possibly next week? We would be happy to have you on, so you can give your perspective in relation to the subject. What we can do is we can cut it here, not the live stream, of course. We'll go on to another topic. But we can
there's
cut
a
it here.
PC restart possibility, but
We'll see what happens. But if it's amicable to this individual, what we can do is, to be fair, we can make this a topic for next week's show, and we can have them on.
Yeah.
They can give their perspective, and we can give our feedback relating to this topic. Would that be fair with everyone here? And I'll see if Peter Ethel informs me if that would be fair for them as well. Would that be fair with everyone here?
I'm fine with whatever option gets to have me talking with Ethel. Fuck, I am fangirling.
What about Christy and Perfict? Would that be okay with you guys?
Would absolutely be okay with me. We've never actually talked face to face. We're going to be arranging that at some point.
Yeah. So Ethel, to be fair with you, I think that would be the best option, because I want to give you the opportunity to speak your mind to allow you to have a platform and where you will get some pushback. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to be fair and balanced with you as much as possible, but I'm also going, if I feel that it's a bad take, if I feel that it's not correct, I'm of course going to give you adequate pushback, but I also want to give you a fair and available position so you can share your mind, so everyone can hear your opinions in relation to this topic. So if that's amicable to you, I'll be happy to contact you through Twitter or through other means, and we can try to correlate this for next Friday.
And yeah, I mean, I've disagreed with Ethel before, as publicly as possible for me, because that's true. I'll disagree. I'll disagree with anyone. I'll fight anyone.
Yeah, I just don't want to. I don't want to do injustice to this individual, because as I said,
I agree with a lot of Ethel's points too.
I have to be I'm trying to be balanced here. Yeah. So I'm not going to project what my own bias in regards to this. So as I said, Peter, if you like the opportunity, I will be happy to give you the opportunity next Friday. We'll go over it like we were discussing, and we'll hear your entire position, and then we'll give our own feedback relating to everyone in the discussion. So if that's okay with you, I'll get in contact with you as soon as we're done with the show. If that's cool with you, Peter. Ethel.
I don't know if the restart has finished. Oh, okay. If that's what you feel is best. Okay.
Yeah, I just don't think I don't want to give injustice to the topic, because it's a very important topic that I think everyone's voice should be heard. I'm also going to extend an invitation to other individuals relating to this, because I think this is I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be upfront. I'm going to kind of like break the routine that I'm trying to establish here, and I'm going to be very frank about this. I want communication. I want to be a platform and where people that disagree with different things. Like if I have the opportunity to have Stephen Whitford and Peter Ethel on at the same time, I would love that. Not because I want them to argue or do some type of blood sports. I want discourse. I want to mend this community. I don't care if it's the skeptic community, the trans community, I don't care what it is. But I want people to be able to voice their opinions, have a rational discourse in relation to their counterpoints, and then go from there and trying to find some common ground between one and the other. I don't think ever rationality rules would ever come onto this position, our platform, unless we got bigger. But here's hoping. So that's that's my whole objective with this project, by the way, if anyone wants to know what I'm here for. So,
well, I would have to peace out on that. For Stephen Woodford, that's the one there are three people that I can't talk to, and he's one of them, because of person stuff.
I understand, Christy, and I wouldn't hold, and nobody should hold it against you if that was the case. And I promise you, if that ever came to being, which I doubt that would ever, but if it did come to being in that facet, I would be fair with you and tell you a good amount of time ahead of time.
Okay. My basic point, though, what I was basically trying to get at it was just I had a situation where where different friend groups were having their two of them had agreed to sort of do a sit down, and that blew up like before it ever happened. And I'm not entirely sure that mending is a thing that's going to happen, and I'm very sad about it, because I don't know why it was the rationality rules thing in particular that broke the community, but it did. I mean, I have a lot of background information that I can't share, and I'm trying to be so fucking careful right now.
I understand, Christy. So let's leave the topic alone for now. I just want to say one thing, and then we'll leave the topic alone. We'll bring this up next week. So if everyone's cool with it, we'll talk after the show on what we'll. Go ahead, Alex.
Oh, I am very cool with that. Sorry.
Yeah. So we'll kind of. I just want to say one less little tidbit, and then we'll go on to another talking point. But for me, I understand that it may be very difficult, and this may be fruitless. There may be no way of mending this situation. As someone mentioned, it's charcoal. That's fine, but you have to try, and that's my position. I respect other people's opinions of not thinking that it's possible that this may occur, that may be a dead end, but I have to at least try from my perspective. If it comes to the venue that we've at least tried, in my opinion, and nothing comes to it, but at least in the back of my head, I would feel consciously happy that we at least tried. I guess that's my only motive. I mean, go ahead.
That's what got me canceled this last. I got semi-canceled here and there. It's because I was trying to, and I get why people were hurt, and I'm trying to okay, but there's
I think there are some people who are, in terms of time spent, it's really. For me, the idea of weighing how much time is spent trying to change people's minds versus the particular what the person cares about. I mean, mostly, I don't know how to change the minds of people who value ego over ethics.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that, Alex, because for me, a lot of the problems that we're currently facing when it comes to this situation comes from egoism. And I know people may disagree with me in regards to that philosophical take, but I really want to ask this. So, Perfict, I know you're pretty versed in philosophy. I know you're not an expert. You haven't gone to college and all that good jazz, but you're one of the most versed people in philosophy. In your opinion, can you share what your opinions are on, or your observations are when it comes to egoism? I mean, how much do you know about egoism?
I'm really not sure even how much I know about egoism.
So I guess I'll share some information on that for next week's topic. But we're going to move on, to be fair for everyone. But I will get in contact with individuals in regard to this, and hopefully we'll give them an opportunity to speak their mind freely in, again, fair and balanced way. So we've gone to Christy, we've gone to Alex, we've gone to Perfict. So it's my turn. So this topic is actually something I brought up earlier, but I can't emphasize this enough. I brought this up in secular sexuality last week, and I'm going to bring this up here. There is a huge problem here in the United States, and I would even argue that this is the case all across the industrialized world regarding the treatment of trans veterans. It's a huge problem for me. This is one of the motives I have of why I want this project to succeed. There is such a negative treatment of these types of veterans, especially within the trans community, that for me it's incredibly disheartening. Right now, you see so many veterans. I had a personal experience talking to an individual less than a week ago relating to this subject. And for me, the amount of treatment these trans individuals face while being in a highly conservative community, while also facing the ostracization regarding the society at large of the trans community, it's saddening for me. And I really wish that our government and institutions would give more credence regarding this really disadvantaged community. It's like trans individuals have a bad problem as is, as we've stated today, but then you have a community within a community. And I'm not trying to say that their issues are more important than other people's issues. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I wish there was a little bit more nuance being discussed relating to trans vets. So I guess in regards to my topic, what is your guys' opinion on this?
I've not heard a good opinion on the other side. I've heard people talking about it. I have not liked the points that they were making.
Can you share, I guess my question is, Perfict. What opinions have you did you not agree with that they were making? Can you share a couple of them? Would you mind doing that?
why are these people entitled to elective, non-essential surgery that everybody else is denied?
Are you talking
Seriously?
About are you talking about like bottom surgery?
Bottom surgery, top surgery. They're just talking about the surgeries to transition.
And this is what they're saying, correct? Not you particularly, but yeah.
No, not me. This is they're seriously putting forward, like, these are fun time things that people are doing. They're luxuries.
Oh yeah,
It's like
totally.
lobster.
It's totally a luxury.
Yeah, but
definitely the bleeding for a lot, and
yeah. See, for me, like, speaking on my own experiences going through HRT now, like, one of the reasons why, like, I'm kind of camera shy, but not in a way, is because from my experience, like, I live in a very heavily conservative state, and I live in a very conservative retired veteran, disabled veteran community. Like, I'm not very open about this, and this is one of the problems, like you mentioned, Perfict, in regards to the bottom surgery. The thing that a lot of these individuals don't understand is this is a required treatment. Like, for example, if someone has a form of, I don't know, anemia, for example, like, it's a mental condition in regards to being like dyslexic, or not dyslexic, but what is that? I'm sorry, I'm getting a brain fart right now. What is that called when someone has a problem where they don't eat?
anorexia.
Anorexia. Like, sometimes it's required for some type of medical procedure to be done regarding a person having anorexia. And we know that anorexia, there could be other implications of why this is occurring. But predominantly what I've been told and what I've researched on, it's primarily a mental condition. Is that correct to everyone's understanding? Am I incorrect on that, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I'm very wary about putting anorexia anywhere near the trans issue, because that's one of the talking points the TERFs use.
Yeah, and I apologize for that. I don't want to make that point. I'm just giving it as an example of mental conditions. So what I'm getting at, and if I'm wrong, please tell me. I'm not trying to make a bad take here. I'm not a TERF. I'm not a bigot. I'm just trying to convey what I'm trying to get at as best as possible in regards to my position. But when it comes to I'm going to be generalized here. When it comes to certain mental conditions, there are sometimes requirements in the VA for surgery to be occurred. And what disheartens me, what bugs me the most, as Perfict mentioned in regards to these other people's position, is they tend to neglect the very fact that some of these other mental conditions require surgery as well. So my question to these individuals, as a counter to their point, is why is it they don't have an issue with these individuals getting surgery regarding these other conditions, yet they have a big problem in regards to treatment that has been shown to be incredibly powerful in helping these individuals, especially within the trans community? I mean, that I don't get that. I really don't.
Yeah, I assume it's they listen to insurance and are just like, it's cosmetic surgery. It's no different from a facelift. It's all, but I think it requires the framework that transitioning is all about looks. Transitioning is all about trying to look like a woman. I think that's the only way you can really have that sort of take.
Yeah, and for my opinion, I think that's an archaic viewpoint. I don't know if you guys agree with that. The reason why I find that archaic is because of the simple fact is we know today from the scientific consensus I've mentioned earlier, all these other institutions clearly label that you must not have strictly a medical condition to be considered trans. If the consensus of the medical community are saying this, my question would be, why is the government, especially the VA, having a hard time adapting to this very notion? That's what I would ask an individual in that position.
They don't want to pay money. Sorry.
Yeah, I guess that would be a talking point. But again, there's appropriate counters that I can go over at a later time in regards to why that's not a really good counter to that.
There is an archaic model of the way we look at our bodies psychologically, which is called the homunculus model, which is where what our brain sees or feels of our body is generally congruent to how we actually bodies or feel our bodies. To explain that even without the dysphoria, that the model and the body itself are not congruent for trans people. I have never seen myself as a boy. I have had trouble taking showers because I have to be reminded of my physical parts. And I'll give you that for free because that's a lot of people have that. I've heard that is more common than
and to be, if I can just add to that real quick, Christy, that saddens me that everyone's personal experience is different, of course, but for me, it's like one of the things that's lacking in regards to understanding from individuals comes from basic empathy. And like when someone tells me what you just told me right now, I just nothing but feel similarities in regards to my own situation, but also regarding other shared experiences that other people may have that may be, of course, different, but have ties to it. And what saddens me, and maybe people again could disagree with this, but it seems like when someone says their experiences, that most people tend to have a lack of empathy. Maybe you guys disagree.
I don't, actually. I think most people deal with it as is in their own framework, and that's okay to a point. I mean, a lot of people don't understand trans, but just go with it.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that sentiment, but go ahead, Perfect.
I think they might lack a degree of empathy, and that's giving them trouble empathizing with this situation, and maybe giving it the real consideration that it deserves.
I actually
they get a fairness involved. They keep feeling that it's unfair, that somebody's going to be getting an unfair advantage. That's what they always seem to be talking about. They always talk about people could just join the military and then when they leave, they knew that they had this condition and they then want it addressed afterwards, and that would be unfair. This expensive and luxurious surgery.
Yeah, but see, when it comes to that type, go ahead, Alex. I apologize, please.
Yeah. So, two things I wanted to bring up. One, I think, because in terms of empathy versus sympathy, because there's a lot of experiences that might make it hard for people to empathize with the whether it be the potential body horror aspects, all the sorts of stuff for the experience of being trans, because it varies from person to person. But I think a lot of people don't try to sympathize with it, because sympathy requires actually thinking about it, and it's different. And sometimes people don't like different.
I agree with the sentiments on what you just said, Alex, and that's for me. I wish more people would share those sentiments with other individuals in regards to the shared experience. Kind of like to add in what Perfict said earlier and ties in with yours, is for me, when it comes to this experience that people face every single day, this shared experience, you may not, like a person may not directly experience dysphoria or them being a part of the trans community full flown, like a person that's cis would not be able to fully experience, of course, what a person is going through when it comes to their own experiences being in this community. But for me, coming from, like, going back into my memory of how I used to think, who I used to be, for me, when I look at this perspective, I look at it from the perspective that, what if I had a condition, and what if I had psychopathy, I can't say that word right now. But if I had some type of mental condition nearly similar to dysphoria, or what if I had a condition that is nothing to do with the medical side of it? What if I just had a general fear of something, and that I would need to get some form of treatment or help, not even medical or psychological, just help, maybe talking to someone in regards to these situations. And for me, like, a lot of the problems I see is a lot of these individuals have a hard time putting themselves in other people's shoes, understanding that you may not be facing the situation now, but it's easily to accept if you have a form of empathy that these individuals may have a similar experience that you may have in the future. And I think that's the biggest hurdle that people need to address. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
Yes. I mean, we've got Orange Man who's being kind of a prick about this in general, and stoking a lot of the anti-trans stuff. And I'm a trans mom in a way to a lot of people, which is a position I like.
And one of the reasons why we have you here, Christy, by the way.
Thank you. And this is really the only thing I want to say on any of this. It broke my heart when I got a DM from one of my kids who said, it looks like I have to remain an egg for 4 more years.
I think I understand, but please continue. So I apologize.
So because she's in the military, and I will use her proper pronouns, although the military won't, obviously. But
and because we're dealing with audience members, or maybe may deal with audience members in the future who decide to watch the first episode, what do you mean by an egg?
I'm sorry. The way it was explained to me really early on is an egg is a trans person who isn't out in any way yet, or who hasn't figured out they're trans, or can't come out for one reason or another. So it's sort of like a pre-trans state, and baby bird or baby trans is the next, and then you have bird in flight when you're on your way to what you're going for, and Phoenix if you get there. So
Yeah,
and if I did not know all those terms.
Yeah, but real quick, if I can just add this real quick to exactly what Christy said here is spot on. So I'm not trying to say that my experience is special or anything, but you have to understand, like, if I look back through my journey, going through finding out that I'm intersex and going through all my experiences being gender dysphoric and stuff, everything that I, like, going back, looking through my memories, going through my childhood, all the mannerisms, everything that I've experienced, like, after I found these things out, it makes so much sense. It was like a Yahoo or like a Eureka type of moment. And I don't know, did you guys have a similar experience with that when it comes to Christy and Alex, when it comes to you getting into this? Like, did it make more sense once you discovered who you really were when it comes to your identity? Did this happen in similar ways?
Yeah, although there wasn't a lot for me to think about.
With me, I did an episode on queersplaining, and if anybody wants to go listen to that, I made an agreement with a friend of mine in 1989 that neither of us were ever going to come out. And she came out 3 years ago, and I came out just under 2 years ago. So, it's not that my early times make sense, but it's that I was never realizing I was never exactly in. I was always told, well, you write like a girl, and you do this like And there's a picture of me in the class picture in 8th grade where everybody's standing rod stiff, and I'm right in the front row because I was really tiny, and I've got my hand on my hip, and I've got the fierce look. So
and yeah, and what it sounds me, Christy, is as you're mentioning, is everyone's experience. Like there was that, like for me, like I had this gotcha kind of moment in where like I mentioned, like everything that I remembered in regards to my past, my mannerisms, all the stuff like you mentioned in regards to hand at your hip in that picture. It's kind of like that. Would you agree?
yeah.
Okay, for me it was Run One Half. And it, like thinking back, like that was the thing where it's like, well, that and repressing anything so you don't look too feminine in middle school.
Yeah.
But that's because of fucking middle school. But Ranma and Half, the manga, because I read the manga. I didn't really watch much of the anime. But a guy falls into the well of the drowned girl and can basically swap back and forth between male and female due to some curse. And he's trying to find a way to stay male forever. And I'm just like... for whatever reason, middle school, when I read it, I was just like, yeah, I'd be fine, like, switching to female mode and just, like, staying that way as much as possible. But, but I didn't think, well, to be fair, there wasn't a lot of trans information out there.
Yeah, I mean, that was, I would imagine, like, we grew up, it's like, you're in your early 30s, correct, Alex?
Yeah, I'm 34.
Okay, I didn't want to put that out there, but I was okay. So I'm
No,
30. I'm 37, so I'm slightly older. But we have I think me and Alex that we'd probably have a comparable situation. Not of course exact, but I think that we growing up as in the millennial time frame, we probably had a shared experience. You know what I mean when it comes to that.
The World According to Garp was my first information on someone transitioning. No, the book. The book was bad.
Yes, the book was terrible.
I know, but that was my first understanding.
Real quick, I'm not trying to be rude. Real quick, so let me just put this. So we're going to our close-up section of the show.
Sure.
We haven't got any call-ins. That's unfortunate, but that happens when you get your first show. But before we go into the segment, I want to give the opportunity because, again, I want to give everyone a fair time. So, Perfict. I want to give you the last word. Do you have any feedback until we go to the last segment in relation to this topic? Do you have any opinions on this?
No, except that I really feel that it's ridiculous to be denying this sort of treatment. That my usual response is, and so.
Exactly.
When they're talking, what if half of the people who would be interested in this sort of treatment used the military as a means of getting it? They joined and served 8 years, and then what would be the problem with that?
I agree. They serve their country.
Military.
Yeah, see, for me, I actually completely agree with that. Perfict on this. If a person wanted to serve their country, put their own life in harm's way to serve their country, and one of the things that that they would not expect but hopefully achieve is getting a treatment for something that may have been tied in with their service, which is possible. I completely 100% agree with the sentiments you put out, Perfict. So real quick, so this is called our free flow segment of the show. The way we go here is now we're going to backpedal, go through all the topics we've approached. If there's any points that was made previously that we possibly have missed for the next 30 minutes, we're going to approach it. If anybody has any feedback, we'll also be happy to take in calls in regard to our Discord, as the link is still provided in the Discord or in the YouTube chat. But if you have any, this is the segment we're all going to confront. So does anybody want to go back into a topic that we possibly had missed or a point we missed that you kind of remember now? Anybody here?
I have two memes that I did not pull up.
This is the time to do it, Alex.
Okay. So naturally, attitudes. See, this is where I'm getting like super memey. This is not like a good discourse. That being said, Contrapoints' attitude towards trans Twitter and Obi-Wan's attitude is how some of trans Twitter feels about it. But obviously, not all trans Twitter. Not everyone who's trans and is on Twitter agrees with everyone else.
And I agree with that sentiment, Alex. I think that we have our own. See, I think this is the biggest issue facing the entire community. I don't care if it's a skeptic community from the trans community. Is we have a hard time embracing other people's experience, and because of that situation, there's a hard time for people to understand where they're coming from. Like, I'm going to be very, very nuanced here. I'm going to try to be vague here. True, I don't call people out. But for me, when it comes to certain individuals, like for me, like one of the big criticisms I have of certain trans individuals who are, I can clearly label to have a biased viewpoint on this community, is for me, these individuals are doing so because they found an avenue for finding acceptance within a bigoted landscape. They're doing so because they found that shitting on the exact community that they supposedly belong to, it promotes them, it helps them, it betters them, and it's a very self-driven motive, and that bugs the heck out of me. But again, maybe my take is wrong.
No.
I think I agree with all of that. Sorry. Go on, Christy.
Yeah, Rose of Dawn and unfortunately Sarah Michelle, who I really tried to be friends with for a long time, and we got on, but it was too much after a while, and we don't talk about the other one.
Yeah, see, real quick, if I can just add this real quick. I actually had an exchange recently with Sarah Michelle. I have nothing personally or professionally against this individual. But my exchange with her is in regards to her transmedicalism. And when I critiqued her on her take regarding the supposed SJW conspiracy, her first indication from my exchange with her was pulling out a victim card. She basically stated, "Oh, you're only critiquing me because of my support of Stephen Woodford." And I'm like, no, this has nothing to do with that. I have my own criticisms of this individual too, as I've already mentioned in this live stream. Legitimate criticisms, and we're going to address next week. But this is, again, for me, I'm gonna name drop in this segment of the show. But for me, when it comes to the transmedicalist viewpoint, I can give multiple arguments of why transmedicalism is exclusionary and harmful from many facets, and I can show evidence on this to anyone. But the problem, like you mentioned about Sarah Michelle, is even when I confront this individual regarding this take, as soon as I approach her on this, she will go to ad homs, she will go to insults, she will go to some form of tactic to deflect any form of criticism toward this individual. Now, this is my personal experience, but has anyone had a similar experience with this individual, or maybe not? Or maybe they have a disagreement with me?
Okay, so I have a problem with Sarah Michelle in that I am blocked by her. I don't know
real quick,
when
I have to emphasize,
or why.
She was actually recently banned off Twitter, which I don't fundamentally agree with, but she was banned permanently off of Twitter for like a fourth.
Well, yeah, I know, but this was she put the video out, and like, I am more than interested in having a conversation with her and pointing out how she's, in my opinion, she's wrong. If she comes up with a good enough argument, I'm totally fine with that. In an argument with her on Twitter. But that being said, she put out a YouTube video thing, and I found out I was blocked. I was blocked before R&D, who was also blocked by Sarah Michelle, but it took longer.
Really? Ooh. Because she hates R&D with a passion of 1,000 suns.
I know. I don't know how I pissed her off more.
Well, to be fair, real quick, so I saw R&D recently follow me on Twitter. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know much about this individual. I can't speak on them, so I just want everyone to know that. I saw them recently follow me. I'm not really inept on them. So let me be fair in the conversation. So again, in reference, what is your take on what I said? Perfect. Do you have any opinions on that, or?
Well, I'm just thinking about the lack of walking it back, and that people being dissatisfied with people is being. I'm trying to think of how to put it together. Kevin Spacey. I have trouble watching Kevin Spacey. Anything that Kevin Spacey was in, I have trouble watching it. My knowledge of his inappropriate behavior interferes with my ability to watch him as an actor. I can understand people saying I can't watch that person. I have trouble with them saying I can't watch anybody who associates with that person or who had that person on last week.
And to be honest with you, Perfect, I generally agree with you. If you want to address the individual themselves, that's one thing. But if you're going to denote everyone that could be possibly attached to another individual, then that's a completely different scope. So I generally agree with what your take was, what you just said. Perfect. So that's my position. So
I will have the counter leftist position. No, for me, it depends on if the person is actively political or not, because I think those make a difference. Once you promote someone who's actively political and you are the person in charge of promoting them, like it's all up to you. Like it's one thing if two actors happen to end up in the same goddamn movie, because like that's just what it is. Like that's just two people trying to work, and I don't think a lot of people have. I mean, some people have problems against that, but I do think there are extremes in terms of association, but like,
if I can just do a legitimate counter, so real quick, Alex, in regards to what you just said. So, like, I think primarily what Perfict is mentioning is in the example where he was using you were using an analogy, correct? Perfect. Is a good way to put it? So in his analogy, like I'll give you an example. So let's just say you have a specific online personality. I'm not going to name drop anyone specific here, but let's say you have an online personality of an individual. Now, for me, I agree with the sentiments Perfict puts out, and this is one of the criticisms I have of other individuals, and I'm not going to name drop. But when it comes to these individuals, they are easily, and I would argue it is a guilt by association type of thing, and where they will denote an individual to be guilty of a certain form of behavior based on their form of association with this person. Yeah. Now there's a different. Now here's the caveat that I don't know if Perfict shares this sentiment, but this is strictly my take on this. Now for me though, I do have a criticism of people's morality in regards to signal boosting and promoting specific individuals. That is the one divulgence I have in regards to that take. So what I mean by this, if an individual is actively promoting someone who can be shown with clear evidence that this person has a disingenuous motive, I'm not going to assign them the label of bigot unless I can clearly see it's a bigot. But if I can show demonstrable evidence that this person's motive is disingenuous, dishonest, and possibly having a negative motive that anyone in their individual perspective can make in regards to such motive, then that's where my line won't cross. So, for example, I've done criticism of other individuals platforming others for such promotion, and I have a huge problem with that. If you're going to promote someone, especially if you have a large platform, you should do due diligence in regards to investigation on their positions and if they are a good faith actor. If you don't, all you're doing is causing more harm. That's my position. Maybe people disagree.
So So to go to the extreme example, obviously, what if you had Richard Spencer not on as a political role, but just simply on as an acting role?
Are you asking me, like, what would I do in that scenario?
Yeah, what's your opinion?
Well, here's my point, though. Even if you choose to have a person come on in a role that is not typically fashioned to what they're known for, it still does harm. It still does, because they come with baggage. I don't care what any. It is irrational for me, in my perspective. If someone argues, "Oh, but there's no baggage attached," BS. I'm sorry. I'm going to call BS on that. If I'm a previous reactionary, if I was a bigoted person in the past, and people are willing to have discussions with me, like in this platform, and they know that I used to have really bad, bigoted, and really irrational takes in the past, they're willing to accept that I've changed. I've changed my perspective. That's the key factor there. So if Richard Spencer, for example, let's just say he is a white identitarian, white nationalist, so on and so forth in that scenario. And then let's say 5 years from now, Richard Spencer, again, I don't know what time constraint someone can make on regards to forgiveness and forget, whatever. But let's just say for the scenario, 5 years from now, a guy like Richard Spencer became an actor. Yes, you should not forget who he was and what he performed or what he did. But if he has shown clear evidence of changing his ways, clear evidence that he's no longer believing in these irrational exclusionary methods that he has promoted for a good portion of his time, he has shown adequate enough evidence that he has completely more of an inclusionary, rational position, then for me, if you're still going to try to exclude this individual based on that, then I think that's unfair.
Well, I told my my teenage child, as this was a joke after I don't remember what interview I did that kind of went south really badly. I said I went downstairs and I said I should have Onision on to talk about the Middle East, and I think I got canceled by my child just for the joke of saying. So yeah, all presence is political. It's like the constant rehabilitation of Mel Gibson. It baffles me.
Yeah, I mean, I generally agree with the example you provided, Christy, in regards to Mel Gibson. Like, Mel Gibson is well known to have very anti-Semitic takes from a few years ago. Yet, if Mel Gibson all of a sudden to say, you know what, guys, I was wrong having my anti-Semitic viewpoints. I did it was fundamentally wrong, and he's shown proof, actions that show that he has shown actual change in regards to his behavior, then for me, I am more than willing to acknowledge that this person may be genuine in his sincerity regarding their potential change. And that, I guess, for me, that's a biggest standpoint in regards to how I view things nowadays. I have to give people the benefit of the doubt. There are, again, as I mentioned earlier, there are clear individuals that I would easily label an active bias toward a community. I don't care if it's racial, identity, what have you. But for me, it's not because I'm more forgiving. It's because I'm more willing to accept more evidence that this may be the case than willing to just hand wave the evidence away. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, I still think hiring Buck Angel was a bad take.
Yeah, and like I said, this is actually, we can bring this up again next show. And again, this is not because I don't want to hear your take on this, because this, I think, is a very important topic that needs to be addressed. But for the rest of the time we have left on the show, I think this. Do me a favor, Alex, for the next show. if you want to explore this topic a little bit more, I would be more than welcome, and we can have hopefully
Sure.
another individual in regards to sharing their perspective on this topic and go from there. So
Yeah, and I do think, by the way, just to clear things up, I do think there are extremes. It's one of those things where I can understand being wary about someone doing bad things, but I think like you can't. There's a lot of gray area in terms
I
of
agree.
what we call, because like if let's, for the sake of making this not super racial, let's put white as the worst for a motive, and let's say Buck Angel is white. It's just really funny using black or white for any of this shit. So, and I don't feel comfortable labeling everything black as bad.
I understand.
Yeah. So let's say, in this case, Buck Angel is white in this scenario, and Contrapoints would be. I would put Contrapoints as gray for being totally fine with promoting him and then doing a response video where she ignores most of Buck Angel's problems. Not all, but like a lot.
And to be fair, real quick, Alex, I think that's a fair critique to have. And I actually kind of agree with you that I think, like I said, I mentioned earlier, that I think Natalie was being a little bit too safe in some facets. I agree with that. I think she did a good job in relation to the general topic at hand. But I've even seen this take being shared with people who are staunch supporters of her. I've seen this take with people saying that maybe she was being a little bit too safe, or she was being a little bit too nuanced in regards to this topic. So, but to be fair, I want to share Christy and Perfict. Do you guys have any input on this topic so we can wrap up real quick?
Go, Perfect. I'm waiting for you.
Either one, if you guys have anything.
You can do it, Perfect. Wait, are you in the bathroom or something?
No, I really don't have anything to add.
Oh, okay.
Perfect is. See, I've known Perfict for about 9 months. Hasn't it been Perfict since we first discussed on the ACA Discord? Yeah, and Perfict is one of those guys. So just to kind of start the wrap up real quick. Unless Christy, did you have anything to add?
No. Since I'm the one who brought up the guilt by association in relation to who gets to be friends with whom, I would be suspicious of anybody who is friends with Blair White. I mentioned she who shall not be named, but there it is. I would be suspicious of that person.
Oh no, she'll pop up.
She's gonna definitely pop, because as much as we have maybe our criticism of Blair White, she's still a part of this community, and I want to be very vocal. And I'm pretty sure the sentiment here is shared by every one of the co-hosts. Blair White, we may have our disdain in regards to her takes, regards to her positions, but I would fight for Blair White as hard as I would fight for Alex, and as hard I would fight for Christy, and as hard I would fight for Perfict if he was having that experience as well. So, for me,
yes.
That's
absolute. That is an absolute thing. I wouldn't be friends with her, but if she had a trans related problem or trans related political thing going on around her, I would stand for. I would definitely stand.
I had a good. Yeah, I had a good little bit of conversation with Sarah Michelle about trans stuff before we went full deep into arguing about sports. I I still don't know why I was blocked. Anyway, go on.
I don't
let's
know.
do the
I'm
wrap up
not.
real quick. So everyone, I've been having Vosh's picture on for the longest time, so I apologize for everyone watching. So just to do the wrap up here real quick, guys. So I want to make sure everyone has an opportunity to share their positions and platforms on here. So let's start off with Alex. So Alex, I've known you for a good amount of time. Alex is in Discord. She's on Discord, of course, but she's also on Twitch. She's also on Twitter as well. She has you created a YouTube political channel. Is that correct, Alex?
Yes. Unfortunately, with a YouTube channel, like I need over 100 subscribers before I can properly name it. But yeah, basically, Ozma in the Dark. Anywhere you can find me, I might be there. Instagram. I have an Instagram as well. Twitter's the odd one. Because I created it like a couple of years ago, so Twitter is talking to nothing. Although Ozma in the Dark is my official business side of my Twitter channel. Just and obviously Twitch as well. Twitch.tv/Ozma in the Dark. I tried to make it easier and branded myself, not literally with a iron.
Yeah, and I welcome everyone who's watching. Please follow Alex. She does great talkovers in regards to her Twitch thing. Is that fair to say, Alex, that you do a lot more on Twitch until maybe you're going to I think you're going to be shifting over to more YouTube content as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, yeah, and a lot of that is I'm trying to upload a lot of the D&D I do on Twitch to YouTube. I'm trying to finish the artwork on there, and I've only been working like a little bit of a time on the artwork for the intro. Yeah, I also play video games, a surprising amount of League of Legends on Twitch.
You're
Nowhere near as much
right?
as. I've been really lazy about playing ranked. I've been trying to up my ability to play mid. Unfortunately, Echo gets banned a lot. League stuff. Although Senna is fun to play support. Anyways, yeah, so yeah, I don't play nearly as much as Destiny, and certainly not as much as Faker.
As other individuals.
Yeah, I know. Like, Faker is the best League of Legends player. He is the Michael Jordan of League of Legends.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know much about League. I've seen people play it. I've seen you play it several times. It's just, it's all people. The people have different likes in regards to games and stuff.
Yeah.
You know? So real quick, so I can be fair to everyone here. Christy, so she is a individual I recently met. She has phenomenal takes in regards to our previous discussion. She has a YouTube channel also on Twitter. Christy, do you also have any other social media presences that you have other than those two, or is that the only two?
I have two channels. I have Christy Abbey, which I can now name Christy Abbey. It used to be named Recto Ratio because they named it back in 2009.
So your YouTube channel's been around a long time.
Yeah, but there's not been videos on it for a long time.
Gotcha.
I didn't like to watch I didn't like to have video of me before coming out. But I do have. There's Chris Abbey Music, which still exists, and
real quick, I gotta ask this real quick, Abby. You're a musician, is that correct?
Yes.
Can I ask, like, for everyone to know, like, what instruments do you play, if that's okay to ask?
I play guitar, and I can arrange other instruments. I just don't play them well.
Awesome. So if you ever get a chance, maybe we could share your music at one time. If you have anything you've done in the past, Christy, so we can maybe that's something we can bring up in a later show on some of your work, so people can see what type of music you play and stuff. So that would be phenomenal if we could.
Okay. Yeah, I have one thing in particular I'm very proud of, but I mean, I have a lot of stuff I'm proud of over the years, but there's one thing in particular I'm really. So Chris Abbey Music is my other channel. It's a bit fallow right now, but there's a couple of things going to be going on this next week. My Twitter is at Normality Quake, also named back in 2009. I was being very pretentious back then.
Real quick, just to make sure, I will be updating the description tab below of this video. So Christy's music channel will also be featured on there. So if anybody, I don't think it's there now, guys, but Christy, if you could share that with me after the show, I will be happy to update that so people can be directed to that if they have an interest in that, your platform on that, okay?
Okay. Yeah, I left up everything I did as a guy on there, so.
Real quick, so are there any future projects you're working on, Christy, or if anything you want to name, like drop or promote?
I am not. Well, I have 2 other platforms, and I'm not going to promote them yet because they're not fully set up yet. So I don't want to promise anything I can't deliver.
I understand.
I'm hopefully, me and my the person I write with will be putting out some stuff together soon too, which would be very nice.
Yeah, please make sure you share that information. If you do this collaboration, make sure you, if you can, share it in our general in our Discord so everyone can get a chance to look at it when that happens. So that I'm actually very interested in that as well. So.
If you're post emo, I suppose you'd call me. My semi sort of sometimes girlfriend calls it prog punk. So whatever you want to call it, I'm good with that.
Awesome. And we have, of course, Perfict, who is our general recipient of discussions in regards to the ACA Discord. I don't think you currently have anything up currently. Is that correct, Perfict?
Nope, nothing that's entirely mine to share. How's that?
Fair enough. I promise everyone that if Perfict ever does decide to have any type of platform or whatever he decides, he's been very kind to share his time with us, not doing any form of promotion himself, but as the other co-host. But if that ever comes up, I will make sure to update that as much as possible. So whenever you get that, Perfict, I'll be happy to put that up for you, okay?
Cool, thank you.
Always. And of course, I'm Rod Clark, also known as Malice Odium. I have a YouTube channel. I share my opinions, and I'm also Twitter. I greatly appreciate everyone who has been participant in this discussion tonight. We've made some great points. I think this is a great start to an amazing project, speaking for the general consensus of a fair and balanced viewpoint of the trans community and LGBT in general. If you have any questions, feel free to hit us up on the Fluid Voice on Twitter, also our YouTube channel. And as always, I greatly appreciate everyone watching. You guys have a great night. And thank you, everyone, for hosting as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, you're all wonderful people.
It was a pleasure being here. Peace.
Plus,
Have a great night, guys.